How well do you know autism? In this video, I'm going to share with you 15 surprising facts about autism you might not have known. Hey, Define Yourselfer. I am the Confident Autistic. I'm an autistic adult, late diagnosed. Here on my YouTube channel, I share videos that will help you understand autism and build the confidence necessary to live life confidently autistic. Now, if this resonates with you, please subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to ring the bell to be notified of new videos and when I go live for my weekly Q&A live stream. 1. The first fact is masking can lead to burnout. Many of us who suspect that we're on the spectrum, self-identify as autistic, or are late diagnosed as autistic adults, spent years, if not our entire life, unconsciously masking our autistic traits to fit into a neurotypical world. This constant effort to appear neurotypical can lead to autistic burnout, which includes physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that may take months or years to recover from. Number 2, autistic people can have strong empathy. If you've heard or if you believe that autistic people lack empathy, you need to know that is a myth. The fact is that many of us actually experience hyper empathy. That's the feeling of emotion so deeply that it becomes overwhelming. The challenge is often in expressing empathy in ways neurotypical people expect us to express empathy. Number 3 on our list is that autism affects interoception, and that is sensing internal body states. Now, many autistic adults struggle with interoception, meaning that we may not recognize when we are hungry, thirsty, or in pain, or need to use the restroom. This can also affect emotional regulation, as emotions are linked to physical sensations. 4. Social exhaustion is real. As autistics, we often find socializing very draining. Even when we are socializing or interacting with a person or a group of people we enjoy being around. Now, our social exhaustion is caused by how our brains process social cues, body language, and conversations differently than our autistic peers. Now, because of this difference, it takes us more effort to navigate social interactions. Stimming serves an important purpose for those of us on the spectrum. Stimming, which examples of stimming include hand flapping, rocking, fidgeting, etc., isn't just random behaviors. Stimming actually helps us as autistic adults regulate our emotions, process sensory input, and relieve stress. Now, many of us, when we start to realize that we are autistic, may have an epiphany when we realize that we have been suppressing these natural stems for years, if not all of our lives. Sensory sensitivities go both ways. While hypersensitivity, example of hypersensitivity could be sensitivity to light, sound, or textures, is common. Some of us on the spectrum experience hyposensitivity, and that means we may not feel pain as intensely as others, or we might seek out strong sensory input like deep pressure or loud music. Autism can affect memory. Did you know that many autistic people like you and me may have excellent long-term memory, but struggle with working memory? Now, working memory is the holding and manipulating information in the moment. Now, this can make following multi-step instructions or switching tasks very difficult for many of us who are on the spectrum, regardless of our age. Routine isn't just a preference for those of us on the spectrum, it is also a coping mechanism. As autistics, we do not only rely on routines for comfort, we also rely on routines because unexpected changes causes cognitive overload. Even small disruptions to our routines or to our lives can make it hard for us to think clearly and to function. So routine's not just, something we prefer. It actually has a purpose for us. And we really should, if we don't already, we really should create routines that support our needs, our sensory issues, and designed specifically and can be used for self-regulation. Special interests are more than just hobbies. Did you know that special interests for autistic adults are deep, passionate focuses that can provide us with joy, relief from stress, and even career opportunities? Our special interests are often more intense and all-encompassing than a typical hobby. Eye contact isn't necessary for connections, for us to connect with other people. Now, I know it's common and kind of expected by many neurotypicals, but for those of us who are neurodiverse, aka autistic, eye contact isn't always necessary for us to feel or to connect with another person. See, autistic people may find eye contact uncomfortable or distracting, but that doesn't mean they aren't listening or engaged. This is for the neurotypical people. If we don't make eye contact with you, it does not mean we're not listening to you, that we're not engaged and we're not interested. Because some of us who are autistic, by not making eye contact, actually process conversations better when we avoid making eye contact. And the most important part during a conversation, I know for neurotypicals, is to feel connected, and that's important. But the most important thing when you're communicating is for the other person to be fully engaged in that conversation and to process what they're saying. And that's the most important part in a conversation. Now, this is an important one for everyone to know, whether you're on the spectrum or you're an ally. Autistic people communicate differently, not deficiently. Many of us on the spectrum prefer direct communication as we struggle with vague or indirect language, as we often struggle with reading between the lines. This preference for direct communication isn't a flaw, it's just a different communication style. So if you feel like you are not connecting with someone or you don't know how to interact with people in social media or in real life, it's not your fault. It's not a flaw of yours. It's just you have a different preference. Your preference on communicating is different. You prefer direct communication, and that's not a flaw. It's just a different communication style. This one may or may not surprise you, but let's dive into it anyway. The 12th item on our list is that you may have been misdiagnosed in the past. Now, for many of us who are late diagnosed autistic adults, we have experienced misdiagnosis before our autism diagnosis. These misdiagnoses may have included anxiety diagnoses, depression, ADHD, or personality disorders. Now, I'm not saying that you do not have any of these conditions, i.e., there's many people who have ADHD who also later are diagnosed with autism. And for many of us, this occurs because before the DSM-5, which came out in 2013, you could either be diagnosed with autism or with ADHD. You could not have both. Since DSM-5 came out here in the United States in 2013, the science, the experts in the field have decided that autism and ADHD can coexist because there's a lot of overlapping similarities between the two. So I'm not saying that your misdiagnosis may have been completely wrong. I'm not your doctor. I don't know you that well. What I am saying is before many of us receive that diagnosis of late diagnosis of autism, or get to the point where we self identify as autistic, we may have been told that we have anxiety disorders or depression or ADHD or personality disorders. And those may be true, or they could have been way off base, but it could go either way. Autism can affect motor skills and coordination. Now, it's not uncommon for many autistic adults to experience clumsiness, poor handwriting, or difficulty with tasks requiring fine motor skills, like tying shoes or using utensils. Now, this is due to differences in motor planning and coordination that happens internally, happens in our brains. So it's not uncommon if you're kind of clumsy or a messy handwriter. It's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you're differently wired. Alexithymia is common in the autism community regardless of your age. Alexithymia, and that is the struggles we encounter to identify and describe our emotions, is common in a high percentage of autistics. Alexithymia leaves us to feel our emotions strongly, but finding it difficult to put our emotions and feelings into words. Autistic people age differently. If you feel younger or older than your peers in terms of maturity, interest, or energy levels, you are not alone. This is something called the autistic time warp, and it can impact relationships and social expectations. Now it's your turn. Which one surprised you the most and why? A lot of these for me gave me confirmation that yes, I'm not a unicorn. I'm not an alien from another planet. I'm not the only one experiencing this in my life. But I think the one that maybe surprised me the most and really, I think it shook me to the core was number 13, where I talked about how as autistics, we struggle with or autism can affect motor skills and coordination. Now, I have never been coordinated in my life, and one of my biggest fears has always been a police officer asking me to walk a straight line, sobriety check. But I don't worry about that too much because one, I don't drink. Two, I don't drive. And three, I use mobility equipment to get around now. But even as a kid, I could not walk on a balance beam. And I had horrible handwriting. Okay. I was very uncoordinated. And my dad had excellent handwriting. But and he was always on me about my handwriting. You got to write neater. Take your time, write neater. No matter how hard I tried, it never really was that good. And the reason this one shakes me up so much is that was a sign of one of many that I was on the spectrum as a kid that nobody knew because the spectrum was so different, so narrow back then. It was not even a spectrum back when I was in the 70s compared to what it is today. And it really got to me to think, and maybe you've had the same experience. How would my life turned out? How different my life could be today if somebody would have identified I was on the spectrum 50 plus years ago. What difference could that make in my life? I have a great nephew. He's 6 years old now, and he's identified on the spectrum. And I am so happy he's going to get the support and the help that he needs while he's a child instead of having to wait till he gets to my age to realize that he's on the spectrum and start looking for support and making sense of his life. Share your comments about this video or your thoughts about this video in the comment section, including which one surprised you the most and why. And if this video resonated with you, help me grow the channel please like and share this video so we can make the channel a valuable resource for anyone who is an adult who suspects they're autistic, self-identifies as autistic, or has received or is pursuing a light diagnosis of autism. Until next time, this is the Confident Autistic, aka Chris Mitchell, reminding you that I'm always here to help you live life confidently autistic.